Many people have watched this clip and very familiar with it, but it stands the test of time. Paul Harvey put this out decades ago, and it's about as prophetic as anything that you'll ever listen to or see. And as we listen, I think maybe we're going to listen to some of the lines. I think we can bring things up to date as it pertains to us now. I think the message just keeps getting stronger. And as we live, there's, we see things that support what Paul Harvey's saying.
All right. Well, let's take a look at this thing.
If I were the devil.
If I were the devil. We're going to watch this thing through, and then on the back end, we'll break it down line by line.
Okay. It's not very long.
If I were the devil. If I were the devil. If I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness. And I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. Thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. What'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing. Paul Harvey. Good day.
Good day.
There's
a lot
while
there.
since I've seen that. Very poignant.
How many thoughts went through your head as you saw all those points as it pertains to modern day?
I mean, a lot. I mean, obviously, like the most specific one that came true was the metal detectors and drug sniffing dogs at schools. But like one of the ones that stuck out to me was like deifying science over God, and you know, basically how degrading the social and moral fabric of the nation. That is obviously like the cascading effect that has led to what we have now. You know, like my grandparents tell me about a time where when they were in elementary school, they would if they misbehaved, they'd be punished, you know, by their teachers with spankings or, you know, physical discipline. Yeah, okay, you experienced that too. And, you know, nowadays that's like so appalling. And nowadays you see people advocating not for parents being able to discipline their children in the privacy of their own home. I think we should go back to the way things were not even 100 years ago.
Well, let's take a look at this thing line by line. We'll try to make it quick because I know the people watching want to get to the Zelensky stuff because that's a little bit entertaining. But we got,
They'll find this interesting.
The question is, how did we get to that point? How did we get to this point? And I think this kind of covers a little bit of that. So the first line is, he says, if I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I seize the ripest apple from the tree.
What is the ripest apple there?
The last like pure soul, the last good institution, fill in the blank. Like it's basic. I think he's basically saying you won't be satisfied until it's all gone, until it's all destroyed.
And I think probably the most valuable resource is the soul, humans.
Well, yeah, he wants to destroy. He wants to have a third of his real estate, 4/5 of his population, but he's still not happy until he sees the ripest apple, which is all of it. And you're right, it is the soul. I also think that when he's referring to real estate, it's just controlling land, invasion, and controlling. I mean, you could even argue the digital real estate.
Good point.
To house everything in the digital world. My mouse isn't working. Line 2, or page 2. So I said about however necessary to take over the United States. I subvert its churches first. You want to start there? I subvert the churches first.
Yeah,
I think that's already done.
No question. The point I want to make is probably in that second line. And, I originally told you I want to talk a little bit about
which one?
Artful.
With the wisdom of a serpent?
Well, as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. So the devil's so predictable. Let's think about two things, and this will lead in real quick what I want to talk about, artificial intelligence. For instance, what does Eve and the group that constructed the Tower of Babel, can you see some similarities? What did they both share in their missions? Adam and Eve and the folks that built the Tower of Babel. Just
search for knowledge.
Desire to be like God.
Bam, both of you are correct. The apple was to get the knowledge that God had. The Tower of Babel was to go live with God. And certainly God frowned on that. Look at what today we're doing the most egregious effort, I think, ever. And we're teetering on with artificial intelligence of creation. What is it? The fifth word in the Bible. I talk about creative abilities often because we're made in the image of God. So we have creative abilities. And I don't think we use those in business in all kind of ways. But this is where you go a step too far. We're trying to be God. Guys, there's no doubt in my mind, sooner than later, there will be an artificial intelligence being that'll be equipped with all humanistic inventions that will give birth. I believe that with all my heart. I think there will be a woman, correct, and she will give.
Oh, okay.
She will actually give.
You mean
birth.
artificial womb and
Absolutely
creation?
Yeah. There's no doubt.
I mean,
in my mind.
I think they could probably
do
do
you think
that
that's
right
pleasing
now.
to God? Do you think that's pleasing to God?
Well, it's transhumanism, so I mean, it's
creation.
It's complete perversion of what is natural.
Amen. It's doing exactly what Eve did. She wanted to be like God and the folks at the Tower of Babel. And you see how God dealt with those folks. But that's just the tip of the iceberg that, in terms of the AI. For all the good it does, and it does do a lot of good, we're on the cuffs of some crazy stuff, man.
There's a Proverbs that kind of hints to this, and I think it's in The Art of War, Sun Tzu. He talks about beware of unearned wisdom. But I think we're at a point where we are collecting so much knowledge now that it's harmful to us. Like these people that are creating this AI to collect so much data and then disperse it almost at will, most of these people don't know how to handle that knowledge. Not only that knowledge, but the technology that's going to come with it. And I think we should beware of unearned knowledge and unearned technology. I think it's all one and the same.
It started with cloning. We just experienced here a little while back. This is a step further, but there will be. You'll see on the nightly news, AI woman gives birth to new creation.
Well, Josh, we just had Joey in here with AI.
Yeah,
we
I
kind
know.
of talked to him for a little while.
You didn't catch that stream, did you?
I did not.
I'm a little bit more skeptical. I don't think creating sentience through computers is possible. Cloning definitely exists.
I think what Rodney is saying is we have artificial wombs. We have AI.
IVF.
We can create robots.
We
have
the
the thing to create.
Uh-huh.
And so why I think he's basically arguing
There's no
putting
limitations.
those things
I
together.
definitely think that, like, you know these like transhumanists like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, they're definitely going to attempt it's literally the Dr. Frankenstein story. They want to be like God. They want to create. They want to say, look what I can do, what God can do. I definitely believe that they are attempting to do that. I don't know how much of it is possible, like, because you said you think it's going to happen
Sooner than later.
I think they're going to try.
Well, God,
I don't know if
God
it can happen.
believed that
I
they
think
could
God
build the
strike it
tower.
down.
That
God
too.
believed they would build the Tower of Babel to the skies. That's why he stopped them. He believed they could do it. So I guess Rodney's in the belief that they can do it, and you're not. You don't think they can? I think we can. I
Maybe.
think something's coming.
I think I'll go a step further. I think in with 5 years you'll see this happen.
5 years.
I do.
I
pretty
think,
steep
me
timeline.
personally, and I know I'm in the minority on this view, not only just here, but in general, I think that the things that science can actually accomplish is way more limited than people are willing to accept. I think that there is a cap on innovation, and I think that, like, completely, like IVF babies, human cloning, that's definitely real, but I don't think a clone is necessarily like not human. You know what I mean? It's still grown in a womb. It's like, I'm not saying like you can 3D print a baby, but I definitely think like
tempt
Elon
him,
Musk's
Josh.
Neuralink Musk Neuralink, for example, he hopes that one day it'll be literally able to fully integrate the human brain with computers. But if you actually read into how it works, it's not like that at all. It wraps around the brain, and it's basically just like a live CAT scan, which it doesn't actually integrate or like connect with the brain. You can, like, people with Neuralink implants can control a mouse on a screen, but because what they do is they monitor the brain activity of people that can move a mouse with their hand, and then on people that are like paralyzed, when it recognizes those same activity and movements in them, then it remotely controls the thing. But it's not actually like putting wires.
Well, let me ask you-
It
let me
can't
ask you-
integrating with
react
the
to a
brain.
unique situation is what you're saying. It can't react to a unique situation. Is that what you're saying?
So if you think of like a computer, you can plug a hard drive, you can have files in memory on like a hard drive or a flash drive, and you can plug it into the computer, and the two devices connect, and you can access the memory on both devices and view it and whatnot. That's not what that's what they say Neuralink will be able to do one day, but that's not how it actually works. How it works is it's almost like you have computer A being monitored by computer B, and it's watching what computer A does and replicating it. It's not actually connecting with the brain.
And that's why I say it
what
can't
I'm
react
saying.
to a unique situation. Yeah.
Yes. And so, again, kind of a tangent, but like that's why I think there's just a cap on what mankind can even accomplish scientifically. So,
Well, if we were made out of the image of God and the fifth word was created, I'm here to dispute what you're saying. Man is capable of doing anything. And because we get free will, God's going to allow until he's had enough.
anything is a strong word, and I definitely think that I basically agree with you, where I think that, because I don't believe that God divided up the nations at the Tower of Babel because they could literally build a tower tall enough to reach into heaven. I think it was that they believed they could.
It was the intent.
It was the intent
that's right.
behind it.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you that I think God would strike that kind of effort down. Right. But I almost think, and again, I'm psychoanalyzing God here. Who am I to do that? But it's almost like for mankind to try and do something like that and to kind of let them fail and show them how, like, the folly of their innovation, I think would be a
why
better...
would he not let them fail at the Tower of Babel then?
Good question. I guess I don't know. Maybe he would intervene in this case, or
I
maybe
guess we're
gonna
gonna get intervened. Here comes the end of the world, boys.
Maybe. I mean, maybe that's how the world ends.
What else we got? We better move on.
We have next couple lines is to the young. I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father which art in Washington. Man,
this
one hits so
I'm
hard.
gonna yield
When I read it,
really...
this one really hits hard. I would like to separate both of them. The white from the blue outline here. We can take the first one, the top line first. I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I mean, that's what they. Who was it?
Nietzsche.
Marx that said religion is the opiate of the masses.
Yeah.
And so we are, and I think Nietzsche also lent to we created God to have order in society.
You see a hint of what we just talked about. Yeah, man created God instead of the other way around.
Instead of the other way around.
We just...
And I really like the line, what's bad is good and what's good is square.
That's exactly right.
Because I think the obvious thing is to say what's bad is good and what's good is bad, but square is actually a much more like accurate thing to what happened in the real world, where it's like they don't say, I mean, they're kind of saying it now, but like in the 60s, it was just like, oh, you don't want to have frivolous sex in the streets? What are you, a prude? You're boring. Like, what's wrong with you? Come on, drink with us. Come on, let's drop some acid. Like that's almost worse to say that the good is bad. It's actually like more deceptive to say it's boring.
Yeah. Well, that was terminology too back in the day. Square, y'all don't, and you would have no reason
nerdy.
To. Well, Dennis the Menace. You never heard of that program, have you?
Oh well, yeah,
I've heard of it.
Well, programs like that, they'd call, oh, you're square. That was terminology used in the.
Yeah, what's good is bad and what's bad is square. It's the removal of morality from society entirely, or from the mind entirely, so that there is no morals. Not that there are morals and it's, some are good and some are bad. It's that there is no morality, and so that if there is no objective morality, then you can just do what you will. I think that's a much more accurate representation of subjective morality than kind of an objective morality turned on its head, which is subjective morality would be worse than a bad objective morality.
Well, y'all go ahead and unleash on this last line. I know you're waiting to do that.
And then I'd get organized. I'd educate
authors. Well, you missed that.
Oh, the other line?
Well, it was just low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. We skipped over that one. It's just too much for the boomers to handle, Rodney. They can't take it. I mean, the founding fathers. If you don't know this, the founding fathers were divinely inspired. That's why the Constitution is placed on the bookshelf above the Bible. Everybody knows this. I mean, this is common knowledge among the boomer generation that the Constitution is God's inspired word. And if you say anything bad about the Constitution, then, well, you're just not really American and you hate America.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's funny. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but my grandmother, she listens to my Saturday morning show, and she brought that up. I forget who it was, but there was some pastor or whatever in like the 60s who said that he believed the Constitution was divinely inspired. There are people that believe that. And, our Father, what did I say? Like, in Our Father who art in Washington. And it's so accurate to what it is, where we deify not even the leaders that are in office, but the positions that they hold.
So well put. That they have eclipsed any other popular entertainer, movie star, rock star, what have you. They have eclipsed any of those by far. We worship We worship the no doorknobbers.
Yeah,
true.
Josh kind of hinted more at the current politics and the current positions. I kind of hinted at more the Constitution and the founding of the country. I mean, but I think the same it stands for both.
Right.
What were we on? 5? Nope, 4. Oh, we got to speed through this thing.
Yeah, and there's some that we probably.
And then I'd get organized, educate the authors how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and interesting.
Is that our social media? It's exactly what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I heard somebody this morning that I really liked, and he said it's not social media anymore. It's just media, and that's what it's become. There's no more social aspect to it. It's just media.
Oh, good point.
Again, yesterday, who got the Epstein files? It's
Like
these social media personalities, these
sports
influencers,
commentators.
sports commentators, these people that they say it on X all the time. We are the media. Yeah, we don't have social media anymore. It doesn't exist. I mean, I go on Facebook once a month and I scroll and all I see is ads. I can't even get through the feed to see anything anymore. It's just advertising because there is no social aspect. It is only media.
Which is not,
And he calls to authors, but I mean, the medium matters. They didn't have that back then.
But then a greater point there is that, anything you put out, everybody's an author on this type of media. Nothing's vetted, and it's all about what you said earlier, clicks. The people that come to me often, did you know this is happening there? Well, where'd you hear that? I saw it on Facebook.
I saw it on Facebook.
I saw it on TikTok.
I watched an AI video of it.
And they take it for face value, and it drives me nuts.
Well, I'll tell you what's going around right now. There's a video going around where somebody has created a Donald Trump Jr. audio bit where he's praising Ukraine, and it sounds good. Like, it sounds really good.
Like an AI one?
Yes.
Okay.
And it sounds deceptively good. And so they've had to publish basically, hey, this is AI. It's so deceptive, man.
And I don't think you probably have it, but I sent another clip, and this is not AI. It's just dubbing. It's dubbing videos, but
I didn't pull it.
well,
Sorry.
that's okay. But I mean, I think we can talk through it. It was about a gentleman who appeared to be on The View, and he set them
Yeah,
straight.
some of his videos are good.
And
What's
it's
his name?
great.
Damien.
But my very girlfriend had called me and said, "Can you believe how he put The View in order?" And she was just ecstatic. And I looked at it and I said, "Well, darling, I don't think he was on The View." And once she verified, he was not. But he just edited the video to look like he was fighting with the View staff and winning quite handedly.
Yeah, Damien Imani.
That's his name. Sure is.
He's
For reference.
he's got a couple of those videos, man.
Yeah.
They're pretty funny.
There's really good, and I wish it was.
But
true.
you can't tell.
No,
You can't tell on
just
some
like
of those videos.
No, you cannot. You cannot.
His graphic works is good, and his comedy's
More
real
about
good, too.
verification. You can't hardly verify anything today. Not unless you're on the radio.
That's right.
Number 6. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves until each in its turn was consumed, and with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. Ronnie, you like to refer to the term of shock value. I know you've referred to that before. That's what this has forced. The shock value has forced people to turn on each other, and there's no hopeful content anymore. Not really.
Yeah, agreed. Put that back up there because there was a point I did want to make, and it slipped me once it got out of my sight. Sorry about that, Zeb.
I click on the wrong one.
It was
Where is it?
the
There it
last
goes.
one. Let's see. Let me read it. The war with himself when each turn is consumed with the promise of higher ratings. I lost my thought on it. Sorry. But everything you see there is absolutely true. I mean, that's so obviously has come to pass. Everything you see there.
Yeah,
Everything
families
you
at
read.
war with themselves, churches at war with themselves. I mean, you see the splitting of churches. I mean, churches at war with themselves. You see like the Episcopal Church, the Methodist Church. All these churches have gone
Divided.
extremely liberal, and some of these local churches around us have kind of gone apart from the organization itself, and they are going
and been
independent.
stripped of their funding, but they've taken a
Stripped
boat.
of their funding.
But
yeah.
I was going to tell you, Josh, coming here. Well, you're not a foreigner. You're from Charlotte, but you see how we have a church on every corner.
Yeah.
And you might be optimistic about that and find that really a feel good thing. But the reason behind that is because churches are split. They're having problems, and half of the congregation is going somewhere else. So a lot of times it's not growing; they're just splitting, and that's concerning, and that's that was my takeaway from
Yeah.
that
the
paragraph.
church is splitting it's been happening for a long time.
Long time.
It seems to be a lot more recently, though, which I guess everything speeds up in time.
And I do want to say this about that point. If you could pull it back up.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Sorry. Stay with us then.
The church thing, I mean, you read the Gospels, you read the epistles. There have been disagreements in the church since its beginning. That's not unknown. I definitely agree it's worse now than it ever has been, no doubt. But to me, I think one of the craziest things is that the family is split over like the same issues where, like Zeb, you probably know what I've seen. Maybe you have too, Rodney, but every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, I get memes about how like, oh great, I've got to deal with my racist uncle because it's Thanksgiving, or I've got to deal with my liberal nephew because it's Thanksgiving. And it's the family unit at like not even like distant relatives, but your family, like brothers and sisters, resent each other over politics, over political views. You never used to have this problem, even back in the church day. I mean, of course it happened, but like families were units. They all grew up together. They all believed the same thing. And nowadays, like there's such a focus on, and I'm trying not to go too far off on a tangent here, but on individuality that people almost think that it's wrong to believe what their parents believe because, oh, well, I didn't come to these beliefs on my own. It's just what my parents taught me. Obviously you need to come to the truth, which, is Jesus Christ, but I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with being a coherent family unit.
I think there's an arrogance that comes with that. There's an arrogance that comes with this idea that I'm smarter than the people that came before me. I'm smarter than my parents. I can figure this out on my own. It's like, no, man. At a minimum, even the earliest creationists believe the world's only 6,000 years old. You can't tell me that you think you're smarter than 6,000 years of generations before you. That's absolutely the most arrogant thing I can think of.
Can you record that little bit when you start yelling at me about you baby boomers don't want to move up? Will you record that?
I'm skipping the generation just because the boomers' arrogance. See, and this is exactly it. I'm referring to the generation before the boomers and every generation prior to that. And that is my main quarrel with the boomers is that they reject their fathers. They reject their grandfathers. And I and Josh and our generation are trying to find that. We're trying to find that again. We're trying to find where we came from because it's been taken from us.
Ain't your mama and daddy a baby boomer?
Yeah, but and me and Josh did a video on this. When we say baby boomer, it's not specifically a birthday. It's a mindset. It's this idea. It's of arrogance. That's exactly what it is. I think C.S. Lewis referred to it. I'll have to find it. Oh man, that's gonna kill me.
Well, it's basically this idea that everyone that came before me, except maybe my parents, is a caveman. There's some filthy Neanderthal that like didn't know complex math equations like I did. They're the same people we are. They just didn't have the luxury of existing in a time where we know as much as we do now. If you were to abduct one of your ancestors from even as far back as 1,000 years ago and give them the same education, they'd be the exact same way you are. They're no different than we are, going back thousands of years, millennia. They even scientists discredit this myth that the cavemen were these like like guy, they had complex social systems. They had the same, it's largely accepted they had the same IQ that we do even now. And it's basically it's this arrogance that, and I'll throw my generation on the bus now. It's like, well, I'm 24, but because I went to the right college, I know more than everyone who has ever existed ever. I know more than Marcus Aurelius. I know more than Peter and Paul,
Chronological snobbery.
Exactly.
One more point about the church, and here's another thing that you might not have thought of too, how the church has been watered down and weakened with the splits. I see, especially in my community these days, it's nothing but an entrepreneurship venture. Some of these pastors are getting in there, not even, formally instructed at a seminary or anything like that, which I don't necessarily think you got to be if you're well versed in the Bible. But a lot of them are doing it just to pass the plate. And what kind of message can a pastor who in his heart is there for money. What kind of message can he really deliver to a congregation? So the congregation is the loser there. But that's more of the same in that
Yeah,
paragraph.
well, I mean, the Pope just came out the other day. Well, he's dying other than that. But he came out the other day talking about they need to shorten their sermons on Sunday morning. Pastor, or I guess priest or cardinals, whoever they have at the front of the church needs to shorten their sermons. It's like, I mean,
Why?
you got to
make
teach
lunch
the
at
people.
to get in front of the line at the local restaurant.
Start
know.
sooner.
What else we have? If I were the devil, I encourage schools to refine young intellectuals, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild until, before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs, metal detectors at every school.
I don't even believe we got to. I don't even believe we got to address that. See that is
Just what happened.
bam. Yeah.
I mean, I'll address it real quick. I think a lot of it has to do with demographic change. And that's just the truth of the matter. The numbers reflect this. And so if we didn't have not a 64 Hart-Celler Act and immigration and all this and that, and America was still America from the 60s whenever this was filmed or recorded, then I think that we wouldn't have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors.
Well, I think it's a breakdown of the family unit. No fathers
Oh,
in the
for sure.
house.
Yeah.
But it's compounded on itself.
Yeah, many things.
It's absolutely compounded on
and
itself.
it's basically like, you see these parent teacher conferences where the teachers aren't allowed to discipline the children in any way. They're not even allowed to take their phones anymore in some cases. A kid will be on the phone, not even just like not paying attention, but actively disrupting, actively being a nuisance. And for the teacher to even speak to the child about this, you get these parents wagging their fingers in their faces. It's like, it is demographics, but it's a very complex problem. The social breakdown, family breakdown, demographic breakdown, it's all these things.
Think about it. When they're wagging their fingers at the teacher, who are they really wagging at? I mean, at themselves, because the child's behavior, I mean, it's cliche now. It absolutely starts at the home, and that's gone for the most part.
Yeah, it definitely starts at the home, and it's a very, very complex problem, and a lot of contributing factors. Let's see. Next line says, within a decade, I have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, and then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. Mm-hmm. We're definitely seeing that. I mean, the prisons are overflowing. At least we got El Salvador offering some prison room for some of the people that we're sending out of America for basically invasion. But the prisons are overflowing. I would say, again, it goes back to the home. It goes to demographic change. It goes to a lot of things. I mean, these are all complex issues. You have judges promoting pornography. You have everybody promoting pornography. I mean, it's across this social media landscape that we talk about. You have OnlyFans coming up where anybody can post anything. It's not even restricted to a subset of the population anymore. I mean, everybody has so much access, and it's so easy for these people to just post whatever they will online, that there's no restrictions.
Here's optimism.
Which reminds me, can I post my OnlyFans on here?
Go for it.
Sweet.
Here's optimism, though. Looks like some of this is getting reinstituted. Trump's righting the ship on a lot of this. So for the first time, we're kind of seeing a 180 in this behavior, and I think it's just starting. I think we're going to see a lot more.
I will say there has been a decent bit of pushback from the state level on pornography and obscenity. And I think that's the way forward. I don't think the federal government or these private companies that are directly profiting from it are going to do anything about it. So at the state level, you have to push your state legislators to kind of stop this stuff. I mean, they have full authority to ban websites from the state. I mean, there's no reason for these people not to, other than money, because they're obviously getting paid off. Next is, in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion, and Deify science. Sorry. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. Taking shots at Coca-Cola. But I mean, that's 60 years ago. I mean, that's what it is now. Mm-hmm. It's a bottle. Really, it's toys. And Easter is candy, but it's a perversion of.
It is kind of
a holiday.
I touched a little bit earlier on the deifying science thing, but the emphasis on psychology, on like therapy that you see today too, that's actually a very important point to address, because like personally, I don't believe in therapy for the most part. I definitely think that there are like some severely disturbed individuals that need professional help. But this idea that like every single person, when they have a problem, they need to address it with some specialist. This is a symptom of the lack of community, the lack of family that we've seen. Whenever you had issues in the past, you'd bring it up with your family, with your loved ones. Mm-hmm. They'd help you work through it. Mm. You had a pastor, you had a priest in an extremely tight-knit community. And your problems were really everyone's problems.
Good point.
And they talk about how it's like, well, there's no privacy in it. And there is to a certain extent, but it's basically what we have is too much privacy now, where like you can be going through something terrible and it's completely unnoticed because no one talks to each other anymore. Like therapy has existed forever in the form of the community, and now we don't have that anymore. Mm-hmm. So you have to pay somebody.
We could probably come up with 1,000 examples because of the erosion of the family. That's a great point. That therapy normally took place within the confines of our homes, right, in yesteryear.
Yeah, I think having everything online lends to that too. Not only the breakdown of the family, but restricting all access to people to online. That includes video games and social media.
And the information is not vetted. Again, everybody's a publisher, you know?
That's exactly right. If I were the devil, I would take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Talk to me.
And what will you bet I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich? I watched a video. Let me get the last line real quick, and then we can jump to the first. I was watching earlier. I think it was Dave Ramsey, and he was talking about these online sports gambling websites where you can parlay. You can bet on anything. And Polymarket just popped in my head. Polymarket, you can bet on anything in Polymarket. When I say anything, you can bet on anything. Is Mitch McConnell going to die before the end of the year? Like those are bets that are being made. And it's extremely addictive. And like pornography, it should be banned across the board with no exceptions.
I agree.
What was that first line?
The first line said, Reagan trickle down economics.
Reagan's trickle down economics.
That's what it said.
I was gonna say, you can tell there's a little bit of the Red Scare kind of in this, talking about like killed incentive and ambition, which is true. Don't get me wrong, but you can kind of get this sort of anti-communist sense from this line, at least, I think. Well, yeah, not bashing it, not saying it's wrong.
It's an argument against UBI, but also that's the same argument they use for UBI. Yeah. Is if you give enough people to survive, they'll want to do creative things, which is obviously not true. I mean, look at the welfare state today. Mm-hmm. I mean, these people, even since COVID, you look at the unemployment rate since COVID, it went up, and then look at the unemployment handout since COVID. It hasn't changed. These people that are collecting unemployment money don't want to go back to work. They don't want to do anything creative, so they keep collecting this money. They keep collecting. Maybe they even sign themselves up for Social Security under a false name with a false age. Let's just call it 350 years old, and keep collecting money, and they do nothing with it. Mm-hmm. And it kills the ambition.
Based on what y'all seen so far, is Paul Harvey a Democrat or Republican?
By today, he would be a Republican because everybody is a Republican. I mean, the entire sane side of humanity is a Republican, which is why we're going to split pretty soon. Don't worry.
Not those that are participating in the blackout today.
Was he a Democrat?
I don't know.
Yeah, but nobody's participating in the blackout, though, right?
Yeah, no one's going to do that.
This one and one more. I would caution against extremes in hard work and patriotism and moral conduct. I would convince the young that the marriage is old-fashioned and that swinging is more fun and that what you see on TV is the way to be. Is swinging that old, Rodney? Is that around when you were younger? I didn't catch that when we watched it the first time through.
I did. We swung in trees, and I thought the same thing. Well, why would Paul Harvey know anything about the swinging?
Why would swinging come after marriage and old fashioned? But now I get it. I didn't even notice it the first time. But I mean, that's obviously true. But I think he did miss the mark here. He did miss the mark. He said, I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned. Not only did we convince the young that the marriage is old-fashioned, but we convinced them that marriage is not simply a man and a woman, but it is a union of whatever it wills to be. I mean, you have people out here marrying cars.
Two people in love, or not even people.
No, not even people. I mean, you could. I mean, people were marrying AI. We talked about AI earlier. People were marrying avatars that exist in a digital realm. It's a complete inversion of what is natural.
Yeah. And the hard work there. I mean, you just spoke of it. People getting all these benefits and sitting on the porch, not going to work, and
yeah.
How about you can even fit it in this category, defund the police. Patriotism. I'm linking that kind of to some degree to patriotism. I mean, the stuff that we've seen, I could not predict the way he's done. I never thought I'd see the day that anybody would say defund the police.
Yep. And it says that what you see on TV is the way to be. There's this line that's been floating around recently is, you'll like this one, Rodney, is that when you argue with boomers, you're arguing with the TV. And the TV doesn't talk back and the TV doesn't think. The TV just says. And so that's it. When you have an entire generation.
Turn the channel if you don't like it.
Nah, you're good. Rodney's a good boomer. He's a bass boomer. I will vouch for him. I think we have pulled you a little bit kind of towards our way a little bit in these conversations that we've been having.
Listen, you guys are really thought provoking.
Or maybe you're just a really good actor.
No, I'm not. You're very, we don't agree on everything, but we agree with enough. And I'd like to voice my differences, and I'd love to hear yours. You guys, here's what I'm most impressed with: your passion and your resolve. Because if you have passion and resolve, that's going to take care of it all. And so I so admire that. And I know, most of the things that I align with what you guys say. There's just a few there that make me cringe, but that's okay. I make you guys cringe too.
We'll fix the cringe here for too long. That way we can get you all on the right page instead of this little swervy you're doing back and forth. But yeah, let's knock out this last one, and then we got a little bit of a showdown in the White House for you. It says, in other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing. And that's exactly right.
It's working.
It's working. Yep. It's working. We're looking, a lot of people have been looking for revival. We've been looking for a revival for a long time. I mean, since 33 BC, you could say. But I think there is a revival happening, specifically in young white Christian males. And the people that don't align with the position of this revival that is happening don't like that the revival is happening in this space. They would prefer that a revival not happen than for it to happen and be attributed to who it's being attributed to. A lot of people want to take shots at the Red Pill movement, nationalism. They want to identify people with kinism where it's not necessarily applicable. That's a discussion for a different time, but the revival is happening. The people that don't want the revival to happen just don't want it to happen where it is actually happening.
And there was one of the cringe points, and not to belabor this because I do want to get on to Zelensky too, but just using white Christian males. I mean, that causes me to pause. Why?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's what it is.
That's fine. But as a descriptor, that is exactly what it is. That's you could say we're the most victimized group without actually crying out victim.
So I agree with that. I do agree with that. We've been But I still think walking together is the.
Well, I think it is too, but I
it's
don't.
not about segregation.
It's not.
It's about it's not about like distinguishing ourselves.
You guys are toting the flag.
It's a description
I mean,
and not a.
you're willing
yes,
to pick up the flag.
prescription. It's not a cause. It's what is happening. It's just what is true. You know what I mean?
It's not a prescription. It's a description.
Yes.
I would wish it were another way, but it's not. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
It does, but even talking like that goes, and I'm not being, sounds like I'm being critical of any type group, but even talking like that goes above some of the
That's
thought
fine.
process that
Yeah.
people's able to have, you know?
Yeah, but I think if we deny that that is what it is, then we will never get to the root of the problem, and the problem will continue.
Yeah, I think there is this idea that basically like some things that are true are going to necessarily offend people, and therefore it needs to be either spoon-fed or not talked about. We've been trying that for 60 plus years, and it's not working. Mm-hmm. We need to be able to say, look, this is not a movement of hate. It's not even a movement of division, but this is what is happening, and join us, please. But it's going to offend people.
And see, what I'm hearing is the resolve, and that's why I enjoy talking with you guys, because it's bathed in resolve and belief, and I have
a lot of
admiration
people
for that.
and I respect you for that, because a lot of people won't sit at the table and allow someone to discuss it.
You got to
They
do
will
that.
point the finger and accuse and strawman the entire position.
Right.